Another episode of RealCode right here. Got my boy. Wait, you want me to introduce you as Chusoko or
Quez, Chushuko. My man of many names.
I've been saying Chushoko. I've been saying.
It's a difficult name to pronounce. That's kind of.
Chupacabra, Cthulhu. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Ace here with my boy Chushuko. Today's topic, we're gonna go over the Korryn Gaines case and kind of give our opinion on it. There seems to be a lot of not misinformation, but people seem to be overlooking the facts on the case, and there's some things that draw your attention to the story more than others, and if you notice those small things, they might change your perspective. You know what I'm saying? So I'll let Quest take it away.
Peace and love, everybody. Before I get into anything I have to say, I want everybody to know that anything I say does come from a place of love. I love all people, but I have a special place in my heart for my people, you know, so, and this is an emotional subject for me, and I'll try to contain my emotions on the subject, but at the same time I'm a passionate man, and it's something I'm passionate about. And like the brother Ace said, there's facts being overlooked, but also there's the idea, just ideas in general, there's also rhetoric involved as well. Just to give you a point by point to my understanding of the situation, everybody likes to start with the initial incident when she was pulled over for not having her plates, and she was very non-compliant. People don't tend to start with how she came to lose her plates. Let her tell it. She was in a lawsuit with who?
The ECI, Eastern something.
Correction Institution?
Something like that.
Something like that. And by the way, she has no criminal record, so it couldn't have been for any time that she had spent in there. She felt as though she had been wronged in the initial incident where she lost her plates to begin with. You know, she felt she had already been wronged in that way. You understand what I'm saying? And keep in mind, she was suing the government. You know what I mean? Local government, but still the government all the same. And that police officer, as polite and as nice as he was, I won't deny it, he was very polite. He was a very nice man as an individual, but he still had on a uniform. He still represented a system larger than himself. He still represented the government.
What it is that she doesn't just see that he's just a single person. She sees it as he's part of this entity that's trying to sabotage her or mistreat her, or that's the perception she's coming with. So it's not just one-on-one, it's one versus all.
You also have to respect the idea of belief. People don't believe in anything anymore. Like truly believe in something. You could tell by the way she carried herself, especially in that incident. She believed, she wasn't afraid of death. She believed that something within her would live on. And if you truly believe in that, then that is something that you would pass down on to your offspring. And you would teach them to believe those same things, along with fighting. Everybody was talking about, well, she just told him to fight, wants to make him a rebel. I mean, that's true, and I don't think she's wrong for that. But she also taught him to not fear death.
And it's getting to that point. You know what I'm saying? It seems like it's getting to a boiling point where at some point there's gonna have to be some type of standoff to say like, this is it. This has got to stop. And he might himself be in one of those confrontations. I mean, I'm not saying that he's going to be put in a position where he has to fight the police, but he might have to be, because the way things have been going, people aren't taking it anymore. So, you know, you have to there's different ways to prepare a child for that. And sometimes there needs to be at least a small handful of people who think that way, who will make that move, who will take the sporadic approach or take the more direct approach instead of just trying to be diplomatic about it. Sometimes you need that aggressive advancement.
Exactly, because Mike Brown didn't plan on dying. Eric Garner didn't plan on dying. Tamir Rice didn't plan on dying. Ayanna Jones didn't plan on dying. Those people planned on dying. You know, so, and the list goes on and on.
This is what the world has to understand about conspiracy theories. You would believe that 2012 was gonna happen before you saw the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't believe that a system that takes people and oppresses them for capital wouldn't do anything to harm them. She died after Philando. She died after Alton.
Yeah.
Right? Psychologically, like in her mind, like whenever you see the police as black people, period, you automatically have to assume that you are on a hit list.
Yeah.
That's the problem that nobody's talking about. That she had to, because she sees that every time you don't see police videos or citizens with the police and it goes well.
Yeah.
And the cop is like, oh, it's okay, I'm not gonna. You don't see that.
Yeah.
You only see them
because it's by design. It's by design. That's the point I was making earlier. They want to get two major reactions. They want you to be docile and compliant. They either want to raise the fear out of you, or they want to raise the anger and the other natural humans. It's back to what you said: fight or flight.
Right.
They either want to bring out that flight idea or that fight idea. And the thing about
either
it
way,
is,
it gives them a reason to kill you.
exactly. And the whole thing is because the media does this intentionally. Like I said before, like this has always been happening. We're just now talking about it. But one thing they didn't do that nobody talked about was that incident in Michigan with the 7-year-old girl who was asleep on her couch and got shot in her face during the police raid because they raided the wrong house. Now, what I believe the reason why they didn't talk about that was because it left no wiggle room.
Right.
It's something everybody could have came together and said that's
That was
wrong. Everybody can agree on that.
Yeah.
You have to have you have to have a Mike Brown incident where, I don't know, that police officer who we trust to uphold the law is saying that he robbed the store and just started beating his ass.
Right.
And we're over like that. What type of sense does that make? That obviously that's not what happened.
Right.
But it leaves that wiggle room because really the overall goal is division amongst all of us. That's the overall goal, is make sure that we all as citizens are divided. We are an easy scapegoat because of this right here. It's such an easy thing to divide us. The moment you see me, you're instantly different. I don't have to know about your life experiences. I don't have to know who you are as a person. You're already different than me because you look different than me. And we've been falling for it since before we were even a country. We've been falling for it from the very, very, very beginning. I know we kind of got off topic of the Korryn Gaines discussion, but it's all.
Well, no,
it's
all
part of it.
That's all a part of it. Because what I want to say too is, and I can't remember the brother's name. Make it an annotation once we figure it out. But the dude that got shot with his hands up while the dude was
in Florida.
Yeah, when
I don't know his name either. They didn't report that one as much because it's kind of the same situation.
Now that's what I want to say. See, that was being put out there, and then Korryn got killed. You see how that works?
Yeah.
There was no wiggle room on that one. Like you said, with the 7-year-old girl, see, that wasn't as publicly displayed or talked about. I know about it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. But that wasn't as publicly displayed as that man because the cop said, I actually don't know why I shot you. Yeah. Now, as I said before, what that shows me is that the police are they're not sent to defuse a situation. They're sent to hopefully have to use their weapon for a purpose. He didn't have a purpose, but he just remembered that he was supposed to use his weapon. They're
intentionally undertrained, I believe. You tell them it's a war. You get them psychologically prepared in the mind state that it's a war and that these are your enemies at the same time. Like, I forgot who made this point. Someone made a great point that police, like in a community much like this, would walk a beat. You would know your cop in your community. They were a part of the community. Yeah, now they don't protect the community anymore. They occupy it now. They just watch now. And you see it all the time. I was literally just at Jefferson and Utica the other day in the plaza, and the cops they make their rounds. They drive around, they'll come back together, they'll meet, say what they saw, and go over here. But they're not actually invested at all in the community whatsoever.
Because why would you be invested in the enemy's land?
And how did we become the enemy?
We became the enemy when they brought us over here.
Exactly.
But that's what it is. I mean, look, that's the thing that people don't understand, man. It's like we are prisoners of war.
Yes.
We just are. Like, we are prisoners of war. And the police they're not here to protect us as people. No. They're here to keep us where we need to be. Like you said, they're here to
be a scapegoat. To be a scapegoat.
Yeah, they gotta make sure that their prisoners of war are not getting out of hand. So how do you do that? You make sure they're not getting out of hand.
Exactly.
By any means necessary. People will only do to you what you allow them to do.
What you allow them. And I say this all the time, the system is not going to change for us. That's when people hate to talk about the idea of quote-unquote black-on-black crime. It's a sensitive spot for a lot of people. Everybody kills at home. Everybody kills at home. It's not my problem to figure out why a white man kills another white man, why a Chinese man kills another Chinese man. All I can worry about is within my own community. And I'm going to tell you, you can make all the picket signs you want. You can protest all you want. You can be you can create as much civil disobedience as you want. But the system is never going to look at you and say, what are they talking about? What's going on? How can we rectify this, y'all? They'll give you an inch. They'll give you an inch, but it's always going to form into something else. How it started off with the very base, slavery. Okay, you're free now, but at the same time, not really. Really, you're not. Really, all it was is slavery was good for a while, but now we're going to start using these factories and machines and stuff, and people in the South getting all this money from not having to pay their workers is kind of messing up capitalism for us right now. We got to do something different, but you're still not really going to be free. And that's the part that scares me. A lot of us have been conditioned to that flight. And we had something going with the Panthers, but they
infiltrated that.
They infiltrated that because they underestimated their government. They didn't know how deep it could go. They didn't know what they were willing to do, how anal they could be to dismantle that, how deep that fear was.
But you know what? Us as a people, this is what kind of bothers me. We have so many examples of revolution.
Oh yeah.
We have so many examples of revolution, yet we're still oppressed.
Yeah.
There's not a people in this world that had a Harriet Tubman, that had a Martin Luther King, that had a Marcus Garvey, that had a Malcolm X,
Nat Turner,
that had a Nat Turner,
Huey,
that had Huey.
Bobby Seale.
There's not a people in this world that had all of these people that did something huge for their community, even if it was for a second, even if it was for a year, 5 years, 10 years. There was not a people in this world that had people multiple times throughout a 500-year course that did some insane shit, and still we wondering, how do we get out of it? So now, bring it back to Korryn Gaines. After all of what we just talked about, we just named about 20 of the world's ills.
Yeah.
Can we really, as a people, blame her for how she responded?
No.
If we just collectively named so many issues in this world just now, and it sounded like a tangent, but it wasn't. It's always directed.
It's all connected, man.
That is the product. That is the result of everything we just talked about.
Yes.
And that's how you bring all of that together.
Yes.
See, because she was not a woman who was crazy, who was just trying to get attention. Because if you want attention, you want to know that you got the attention. She was a product of money is destroying me, big business is destroying me. There are people who literally took me out of the land in whence I came. I'm not eating the food that is genetically predisposed to me as a person. And as a species, as a race, everything that I named, and then what? And now y'all want to take the only thing I got away from me. Y'all want to take the only thing. Y'all took everything from me, and the only thing that I've worked for, y'all want to take that away from me. That psychologically changes somebody. Everybody can be Harley Quinn and Joker fans, and don't even know what they went through. Don't even know what happened to them, and they're okay with them being crazy. But the minute a woman is put in a fight or flight adrenaline situation where her child is the one that she has to protect, her life she has to protect, and the devil is right outside her room there to kill her, she's crazy. That is what craziness is.
And that's it was given to us as that, and so many of us accept it that way, and that's why I fight. And I argue that point so passionately. I actually got to a point where I resorted to name calling, and I apologize for that because it didn't do nothing for me in my argument that I was making. But I was just so upset by it because I'm hearing this from my own people though, and that you don't understand it. I understand that you personally would have been afraid, and you would have reacted in that way of fear, hoping that would help you to survive. I understand between fight and flight, you would have chose flight. I understand that, but in the same sense, you need to understand somebody who chooses fight, because the end result is supposed to be the same. You both have the same goal, and that is survival. You both have the same goal.
That's why it's fight or flight. People don't understand that word or. Or means there's an option. There's an option. If I was trained, any military soldier who gets into a situation where it's fight or flight and it's their lives on the line, what are they trained to do?
They're gonna fight.
You see what I'm saying?
And you know what? And I'll use that same analogy to when people were talking about, well, how the police officer, he was so nice. He gave her so many chances. But this goes back to what I was saying before. Once you put on that uniform, you're representing something bigger than yourself. And you can use that same. But we can't accept that in this sense. We can accept that in war. If we let's say this side of the street was at war with that side of the street, it no longer matters who those people are as individuals. Once they put on the uniform that represents that side of the street, once we come together in the battlefield, that's all you are. That's all you're not a mother, you're not a father, you're not a brother, a sister, you're not a child, any of those things. You're not a human. They're not a human. And that proves how we keep going around and around in circles with all of our problems. But really, honestly, violence within itself is so unnatural.
It is.
And so without it being for this, I can understand fighting to eat. You know what I mean? That's different. Killing an animal to eat for its sustenance, to provide sustenance. I understand that, but just like, you have something, I want it. So if only we can live in a world where you have something, I want it, but you also realize, yo, I have something, he wants it. Well, I can give you something, or we can come together and you can make my one thing into two things, into three things, into four things. And if we just live like that, the world will be so much of a better place. But there's so many distractions that I can only speak on the context of within just this country. It's happening all over the world. I can only speak in the context of what I understand, what I know, what I experienced, and just within this country, it's so messed up. We're constantly unstable.
As far as the police officer, the big bad wolf skinned Granny and put her clothes on, her skin on, and little Red said, "What big eyes you have, what big ears you have." I mean, by standards of the story, it just looked like her grandmother, but she noticed a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
That's the same thing as that woman, Korryn Gaines. It don't matter how softly he was speaking, she saw the wolf.
Exactly. And it goes back to the point before when you say she put her child in danger. Who was that danger? You have to make a conscious decision to be that danger.
The danger was the police officer.
Exactly.
She didn't put him in danger. The danger came into her house.
The danger came to them. They were the danger. But just playing devil's advocate for people who say she could have did something different, but when you place it all on her, keep in mind that those are also human beings that made a conscious decision to be that danger. You can make the point that she put him in danger. I don't even want to debate that with somebody. But you also have to acknowledge the fact that these are human beings who were, doing their job, following orders. Nazis were following orders.
But see, the thing about she put her child in danger, it's weird to me because at night, a burglar comes in your house, you take your child into your room and load your shotgun. Did you put your child in danger?
No. And that goes back into what I was saying is someone could you could call something arresting somebody, but it's still kidnapping. Words only have the power that you give them. But the situation is the same. They were people who broke into her house. They were people who were a threat. Now you could say, but they had badges on. They had these uniforms on. That doesn't make it different. It doesn't make it, whether she saw that doesn't make a difference. You're people who are bringing aggression to me, so I am now reacting aggressively to your aggression. Whether they were two dudes with sweatpants on and a ski mask, or they were uniformed officers. The actions are still the same. You are people with guns at my door, and you broke into my home with your guns.
I tell you one thing. The last thing I'm gonna do when I hear my door get broken open is
ask who it is. Ask who it is.
Who are you?
Who permitted you to be here?
No.
You're not gonna ask that question.
I don't know why you're here. So I'm gonna go and grab my best defense mechanism, which is your best offense mechanism.
And that's the real scary part. And that's the really, 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 really scary part, is that people can have so much power or be able to decide so many things over you, and you have no input on who those people are or even what that power is. Like, I really honestly hate getting into the debate of the legality of the situation. Because at the end of the day, what is a law? It is a group of words put on a piece of paper that you are not in the discussion about at all.
Yeah.
You were not in that discussion at all. I understand the idea of rules and laws, but
legal don't mean right.
Legal does not mean rights. Exactly. It does not mean rights. You could own people legally at one point in time.
Yep, slavery was legal. There's human rights and then there's laws.
Exactly.
That's why there's a differentiation between the two.
Exactly.
Human right and the law. Her human right was to respond the way that she did. Their legal right was to kill her.
Any last points before we wrap up, y'all?
I just said it.
I mean, honestly, we touched on everything. I mean, the last point out of all this that I want people to understand is that she was wronged by having her plates taken away from her, and then she was stopped for having her plates not there anymore, and they try to sabotage her case and withhold documents to allow her to defend herself, and then they came to her house with violence and with aggression, and then she reacted to that aggression with her own aggression.
But I also want to say too, the plates and the documents and the police and whatever else happened before have no merit in the conversation.
They don't.
Her actual death.
They
because
don't.
Her actual death wasn't caused by this. She didn't have her documents or whatever. It was caused by a system that's been constantly killing our own.
Agreed.
And she reacted in a different way than all of those that we've seen get killed on camera.
Agreed. I only make those points for the simple fact of someone watching this and someone take the information, they're gonna raise the points. Well, what about this? What about this? What that? Even within your own mind, and you thinking like, well, she did this, she did that. Take that thought, but don't just stay there. See the other sides of those things as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't just look at it as, well, she didn't have her plates and she was being a bitch to the police officer. Ask the question, why didn't she have her plates, and why didn't she have the right to act angrily for the reason she lost those plates? And then also you can also ask, why did she just go to her court cases? Well, then find out that she wasn't able to properly defend herself, and then ask yourself, then is she really wrong for not even wanting to be a part of it anymore? No, she can't properly defend herself. And then when you get to the actual incident itself of how she died, and you don't do it, when cops come to your door, you're supposed to just do what you're told. Don't look at it, don't be so small-minded. These are strangers, people you do not know, who are armed and who are trained to use those arms at your door, and they're being aggressive, and you are also armed.
And then lastly, ask yourself why in a case where a mother's life was taken in front of her children, why are you defending the police? That's the final point. Cut it right there.